Hello. Hi. Today is June 12th, 2020. I'm Joe Reingold, and I'm here interviewing David Golman. Hello, David. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Okay. Hope this works. First of all, let us know a little bit about whatever you know about your grandparents, your parents, where they were from, what type of jobs they had, where they grew up, etc., and how they, if they did, get to Dallas.
Got you. So, I wish I knew more. But my grandfather, Avashalom, he immigrated from Russia, spent, I believe, 6 months, maybe in Germany, and he arrived through Galveston, Texas. I have the date down on a ship manifest, October the 14th, 1911. And he was born, actually, I was born on his birthday, April 15th of 1893. And to the very best of my knowledge, it's been, told to me he was the first Golman that arrived, came through Galveston to Dallas, Texas. He then helped bring 5 brothers, 2 sisters, and his parents here. So I guess that would make maybe my children 5th generation in Dallas. And I guess
quite a legacy.
I'm second generation native Dallasite. My mother, Alea Hashalom, she was born in St. Louis, Missouri when she was 3 years young, and she had a sister that was 6 months. Their father passed away. Had 2 great aunts who were sisters. One was married. They never had any children, and they, in essence, raised my mother and my late aunt until their mother got remarried when my mom was 15, and they moved to El Paso, Texas. My father was in the service and was in El Paso, and that's where he met my mother. And they got married in 1958, and I'm the youngest of 3 children. I have older brother Mark, who was born in 61, sister Helene in 63, and me in 1965.
Okay.
My family was in the baking business, had a bakery here in Dallas until the early 70s, had a lot of extended family in food business, from meats to the liquor business to the fruit business, and have a big family in Dallas, Texas.
Very good. What neighborhood did you grow up in, and what schools did you go to, et cetera, and what did you like to do for fun as a child?
Oh, have fun. I didn't have fun, but I grew up streets bounded by Royal Lane, North Haven, Welch Road, and Straight Lane. So North Dallas is maybe what it's called. It's a little bit, west of JCC, a couple of miles west. I went to public schools. Harry C. Withers went 1 year, 6th grade to KB Polk Vanguard in 1976-77, which I think was desegregation in the Dallas Independent School District, on to E.D. Walker, and then W.T. White High School. As a child, enjoyed, it was really actually pretty unique. The street that I grew up on, there were 5 families from all from Sherith, Israel, and there were 17 children on the street. So, we grew up throwing baseballs, footballs, playing football in the yard, not tackling too tough with one another. I collected sports cards. We traded sports cards. I had a coin collection. I enjoyed playing basketball, and I'm moving quickly ahead, but when, the first child on the street got married, we had what was then we called it a block party. And we would have appetizers, one house, main course, another, dessert at house number 3. Is one family, they moved off of the street, but lived there long enough to get to participate in the fantastic event. So that was, very special memory of all of us growing up on San Gabriel.
Were your parents always in that house, or did they live somewhere else prior to having children?
Yeah, my parents, they lived in an apartment maybe like the Knox Henderson area. They, built a house in 1963. They moved into it. And, that's as the city of Dallas was expanding north, I guess along the tollway, along Central Expressway. They maybe were pretty far north at that point in time. I remember as a child, probably Preston Road was maybe, 2 lanes each direction. The tollway was 2 lanes each direction. Central Expressway was a nightmare to get on, with entrance ramps. It seemed, I'm sure they were a little bit longer, but they seemed like they were all of, 20, 30 feet, and you took your life in your hands as you tried to get on Central Expressway. My dad, he tells a story which is fact. As a young child, I wanted to go see pigs. So we drove out to Frisco, Texas, out Preston Road, which again was 2 lanes. The further north that you got, it was, 1 lane going out, and it seemed like forever. Where today, it probably is forever today just because of all of the traffic. But, today you get on the tollway and away you go. I grew up in a time where LBJ at really 635, it stopped at 35 on the, as you're heading west, and seen a lot of growth in Dallas.
Yes, absolutely. What kind of affiliations did you have as a child, Jewish and otherwise, and what kind of things did your parents belong to?
Okay, so we were members, as I mentioned, with our block party members at Sherith Israel, and growing up, for us, religious school, it's kind of crazy relative to today, but we went in essence, I think, from 4:30 to 6:30, 2 days a week. Classrooms were full, and then we went again on Saturday morning, Shabbat, and so that. Unlike today where, our children's lives have a lot of extracurricular activities, sporting events, that was probably one of the major activities that I had. I was involved in Boy Scouts. There was a troop at Temple Emmanuel where I had the opportunity to meet a lot of, other kids that were interested in that, other boys that were interested in that. And did not, participate in a lot of sports. Probably at 11 or 12, I started playing basketball at that point in time. I think it was the, Sheps Community Center, today Aaron Family Jewish Community Center. And, basketball was something that I always enjoyed, played for my high school, and was involved in BBYO throughout high school as well.
Okay. What did you do after high school?
So, as mentioned, went to W.T. Wyatt High School and graduated, thankfully, and then went to the University of Texas. Was a finance and real estate major, and was part of Sigma Alpha Mu, where fraternity, and met, many of my lifelong dearest and closest of friends.
Were you active in anything on campus?
Fraternity life, school life, and then I was part of a civil service organization, tough to say today because they've gotten into some trouble of late, but the Texas Cowboys was the name of the organization.
I'm familiar with it very well, yes. How did you meet your wife, and where did you guys live when you were first married, and what did you do, and what did you belong to when you were first newlyweds?
So when I moved back to Dallas after graduating, I, pretty quickly got involved with, I guess it was then called maybe New Dimensions, the singles arm of the Jewish Federation, Greater Dallas. I had the opportunity to co-chair the singles mission to Israel with Ann Schaefer-Rockstein. And the year after that, Janie Schultz Romaner and the guy that I met, when I went, they co-chaired. So I was at a singles event, and I was actually visiting with Janie and my wife, Mandy Karp Golman. She came in, and I was in Boy Scouts with Mandy's brothers, and Mandy and I, we never crossed in the high school or college. In other words, I'm at least 4 years older than her, but I'm 4 years older than Mandy. And I knew one of So I talked to Mandy just for a few minutes, and what she had just graduated college, and what she was going to do. She was actually moving to Chicago a few weeks after, but what she was going to do sounded very interesting. So I just wanted to, catch up. We had some friends that we, knew and crossed paths with, and what she was going to do sounded interesting. So afterwards, I called her up, and we went out, and I can't speak for her, but I probably fell in love at least on date 1 or date 2. And unfortunately, she had to go to Chicago, but I went up there, and she came back to Dallas to see her family. And, about a year later, got engaged, and say 2 years later, we got married. We've got 3 children. As I speak to you now, 23-year young, just got her master's from Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts. 21-year old son who's a rising senior at the University of Texas, and a rising 8th grade daughter at Hockaday. Affiliations, we've always been members of the JCC. Mandy's mother was the program director at Temple Emmanuel forever and 7 days. So Mandy's got very deep roots at Temple Emmanuel. I've got very deep roots at Shereth Israel. And when you get married, you've got a lot of things to kind of navigate. And that has been one that we have, in general, have successfully navigated. We're members at both Shereth as well as Temple. Our oldest 2 had their bat, and well, I would say bat, yeah. Daughter had her bat mitzvah at Shereth. Our son and our niece, who were about 6 months apart, they both went to and loved Green Family Camp, which is where my wife, she went to camp and she worked there. So we had a B'nai Mitzvah weekend for them at Green Family Camp in Bruceville, Texas. And our youngest daughter, this past December, we went to Israel and had her bat mitzvah in Israel. And we're wildly thankful that Rabbi Rothman from Shereth Israel, he joined us there, which really elevated the entirety of that experience. Have been involved, Federation, Dallas Jewish Historical Society, and other organizations, both my wife and I.
Very good. Since you're a native, tell us, what do you think, how has Dallas changed from when you were young until now? And also, how has the Dallas Jewish community changed from long ago till now, if you can?
Well, Dallas is, the growth has been phenomenal. It used to could drive from Dallas to Fort Worth, and you may actually see some land. You could drive from Dallas, north to Frisco or to McKinney, Texas, and you could see land. And today you see residential and commercial and office buildings, from Dallas to any direction that you drive. So the growth in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex has been like off the charts. And I just did a really poor job of explaining it, but it's been crazy. Help me on the second question that you just asked, and I apologize.
Well, if you think the Dallas Jewish community itself has changed any.
So Dallas Jewish community is I was growing up, 4 synagogues or Temple, Shereth Israel, Tiferet Israel, Temple Emmanuel, Temple Shalom. And that was probably the extent of. You had the Jewish Community Center. Naturally, you had the Jewish Federation of Greater Dallas, Jewish Family Service, and some other organizations. Today, the Dallas Jewish community, the greater Dallas-Fort Worth Jewish community expands, 60 miles north or 40 miles north, and who knows how much south and east and west. And there's what was at one point, in essence, 4 synagogues or temples. Now there's probably 40. And, organizations that, as I was growing up, were probably a handful. And now there's tens, if not 100 different organizations. And, what was maybe portrayed as a population as I was growing up, maybe 25,000. I'm not surprised if the number is 80, 100,000 today. So phenomenal growth, lots of different directions geographically, and a lot of different opportunities for people to get involved. Hopefully everybody in the DFW Metroplex can find something that they can grab a hold of and say, hey, this is my own, and find a home.
Good. Speaking of which, what family members do you still have that live in the area?
So it's a fantastic question that you ask. Thankfully, my father's still with us. My mother passed away 18 years ago. My brother and his family are here. My sister lives in San Antonio. I've got, first cousin that I grew up half a mile from. She and her family live here. Her father, my uncle, lives here. Another first cousin that, her two first cousins, both of their parents, unfortunately, have passed away. But, each of those cousins, they probably live within 3 or 4 miles of where we live. And then you get into the second and third cousins, and unfortunately, probably some I wouldn't even recognize, but they live all over the Metroplex.
What encouraging words would you give your own children to have them move back here and stay and grow up and stay here in Dallas?
So at least we have the opportunity already with one child who's went to school in Worcester, Massachusetts. She talked about staying up in that part of the world for some period of time. She came back here. Hopefully she would, maybe like to stay here, whatever that is for her. That's, totally her decision. But I think everybody recognizes the beauty of having family close by, and the beauty of having, some roots in places that you're wildly familiar with. So I'm hopeful that is something that they value. We grew up naturally all the high holidays having large crowds, Passover having large crowds, and not just my family, but Mandy's family as well. And some of that can be a little bit burdensome from time to time, but I think our children, they see the wonder in that and the beauty in that, and at least that's something that they value. And if they opt not to come back to Dallas or the DFW Metroplex, I do trust that they'll come back and visit often, because they've got a lot of fantastic memories of growing up here.
You're very fortunate. That's wonderful.
Yes.
So now here's a tough question. Well, maybe not tough, but who do you think through the years might have been what you would consider a role model for you?
Role model for me are, people that I guess maybe, gravitated towards naturally, parents. And, I make mention earlier, I had, a lot of family around, but, some of the figures maybe in Boy Scouts when I was involved, as a child growing up in Boy Scouts. And then I think in high school, naturally, my high school basketball coach, while significantly older than maybe what we would think of basketball coaches, probably at that point somewhere in his 60s, the importance of, practicing hard and working hard is something that stayed, with me for forever.
Okay. And what project or activity or thing that you've been involved in can you think of that you were the most proud of?
It's, and I don't know that if pride is the right word, but, and maybe it is, when my mother, Aleha Shalom, when she passed away, I was beyond any level of diligent, as was my father and my brother, again, my sister not living here at the time, of, going to morning and evening prayers. If 11 months, so in essence, 330 days times 2, 660 opportunities to be at service. I think that's something that was kind of ingrained in our brain. Not only we didn't need any help to know how fantastic she was, but, our Judaism and our religion is important. And that's something that, you know, I very much took to heart, and I'm going to use the word, and I took very serious that opportunity, that challenge, and that's something that,
That's beautiful.
yes.
Is there anything that I haven't said that you'd like to add, or?
No, you've done fantastic. You've done fantastic. I appreciate it.
What do you feel overall, because I'm a native also, but overall, is there something tangible, something special, something unique, I don't know, about being a Dallasite and about staying here pretty much all of your life that you can share with everybody?
Well, you know, I think, you know, owning a little bit of the sense of history that, you know, comes with living in the same place, you know, all of your life. And I think, you know, for my children, there's some message in that, you know, to, you know, the continuity of the stick-to-itive, you know, the importance of, you know, setting your, you know, your foundation and remaining true to that foundation. And yeah, Dallas is great, but it's, you know, it's grander than Dallas. It's, you know, the fact that they have the opportunity really to go to the same Jewish community center that I, you know, grew up doing things at, and to participate, be it in, my son was very involved in AZA as I was involved. And so it gives us the opportunity to share our stories while, you know, 30 plus years apart, 40 with the youngest daughter. You know, hopefully we'll have a lot of similar experiences through different lenses and through a different generation that we can share with one another.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, David. As we wrap up, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great summer.
Joe, all of that back to you, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.